Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, clap your hands, stamp your feet, and slowly rub your privates. It's the Tidy Boys, Tidy 30 podcast.
Do you think you could do a better intro this week?
Yeah, well, I've actually been practicing in the bedroom.
Okay.
In front of a mirror.
Give it a go.
So, wish me luck, yeah?
Yeah, okay.
And I'm not looked at the
Do not look at the camera.
Shall I look at... Shall I look at you? Then that's what...
Just
So you're just looking straight down the screen.
Pretend it's
Okay.
not there.
Hi, we're the Tidy Boys, and this is our Tidy 30 podcast. We're still going, believe it or not. People seem to like it. They've written to me saying, well done, Amadeus and Andy. So we're going to continue for a while. And we're on a journey, speaking to friends, relatives, and people in the industry that's supported or been part of Tidy's history over the 30 years. And we've had DJs and producers. And today we've got a bit of a mixed bag for you. Someone who does a bit of everything. And I think it's going to be a really interesting story.
I'm very much looking forward to this because there's many levels to this gentleman that's on the podcast today, Amadeus. I like to call him James Dean. Some of you will know him as Jimmy Dean.
Yeah.
DJ, promoter, producer and entrepreneur. Would that be a fair summary, James, of your
Yeah, I guess.
your skill set?
Welcome to the show.
Restaurateur as well.
Welcome to the show, Jimmy.
Thank you.
It's going to be awkward if I call you Jimmy and you...
Well, let's just go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever fits.
Yeah.
What would you prefer though? Because let's get it straight from.
Okay. I don't know. It's subjective. Some people call me Jay. Some people.
So
call me
if you're
Jim.
introducing yourself, are you...
I'm James Dean.
James Dean. I like James Dean better.
It sits more formal with more conviction and direction than Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy sounds a bit like an Irish car boot salesman.
Yeah, a bit throwaway maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go James. I'm going James.
Okay, welcome to the show, James.
Sounds weird coming from you.
No, I'm going to try. I'm going to keep it up. So this podcast, what we do is we delve into people's history. We go through their school years, early years, everything really, from the moment you popped out.
Who is James Dean?
Who is James Dean?
That's where we're going with
So
this.
let's start at the beginning. Where were you born? What was your early memories?
Born in Burton-on-Trent, where I still live now. And then I kind of zoom straight into the words that come to mind are poverty, I guess, and a lot of people were in the same position. Dad was manager of an American rock band, the Black Crows.
Like the Black
also
Crows.
the Hypnotics in the UK. So he toured around a lot, but then kind of fell down the wrong route, ended up being a heroin addict and subsequently died. So in my early years, I was on tour buses in places like, Italy, Philadelphia, basically just not doing
On the road.
schoolwork and all of that. Fiddling about with 1980s, park hands and stuff and lighting.
So what age is it? I mean,
I was like 6 to 7 when I was touring with my dad. I guess he introduced me to music to a degree. Beggar's Banquet, which was a record label in London. Elephant Studios in London. So I spent a lot of time in recording studios. So then... didn't really do very well at school. Left school when I was 14. I went straight to work at Emporium as a glass collector. I think looking back now, because of my ADHD, it wasn't that I was bullied or I just didn't really fit in.
Yeah.
I always, I also had some really weird traits, like if I didn't touch every single fence panel on the way to school, I'd have to go back and start it all again.
So you got, as well as ADHD, there's some OCD, some serious OCD.
It was just like, I look back now, I've had a therapist for 8 years, the same therapist, who helps me with everything, day-to-day life, stress and all that stuff. And they unravel a lot of the past, things like abandonment when Dad left. And my mum's deaf, so she's actually one of the first ever deaf school teachers. She was sponsored by Apple and Nottingham Queen Medical Centre, and she was the second, I think, to have they cut her skull open, they put a cochlear implant into her head.
God.
And then she walked around with a phone in her pocket, like Bluetoothing, and I remember when she first heard Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles, that was, to be able to hear again. I mean, for us, losing our hearing would be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
For my mum to be able to start to hear. And there was a lot growing up with, obviously, not having any money. So most of the time I'd just go and nick wheel trims and sell them at Donny Market, nick milk and orange juice and just to make sure that we could eat.
So you were a naughty boy at school, but back in those days, the ADHD and the OCD wasn't diagnosed. You were just treated as the naughty kid.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really even talked about.
No.
It wasn't really a thing. And I guess my proper ADHD assessment was a couple of years back now. A lot of people get put on various different drugs, which is counterproductive to what you should do, because like Ritalin is basically amphetamine for kids.
Right.
So the medical profession prefer to try and speed your brain up instead of slowing it down, and my brain doesn't need speeding up. There's got 15 motorways running at any one time.
Yeah.
Thought processes. Although I look back now and think if I didn't have ADHD, I definitely wouldn't be able to have sort of 6 companies and all the staff and everything I've got.
So you found a plus point in a negative almost, haven't you?
Yeah.
But to be fair, Andy, I think most of you've already.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think most entrepreneurial people are somewhere on that spectrum.
Yeah.
I'm very dyslexic.
Yeah.
My son's diagnosed with ADHD, therefore it's within me.
It is, and there's a big chunk of it that's hereditary, but it can also be a learnt process. So if you ever heard of a publisher called Gabor Mate, who's probably the world's leading ADHD doctor, a lot of what he says is down to genetics.
Yeah.
Some of it is learnt as well. But there's also ways of coping with it and managing it. And my daughter's been diagnosed with ADD, so she has the attention deficit part, but not the hyperactivity bit.
Yeah, to be fair, that's my son. He's got exactly the same.
But Reva has sort of severe dyslexia that she struggles with quite a lot. But over the years, we've managed to turn that and her understanding of me being ADHD into a superpower, where she just like goes around telling everyone now I've got the superpower, and
yeah, exactly
and,
right.
As long as she's happy, I don't really care.
Yeah. But I think Andy says I think most people who are entrepreneurs have got that trait. I also think while we're talking about entrepreneurs, and this is why I don't think I could be an entrepreneur myself. I think you have to have like almost blind vision, almost faith in a lot of things. I'm too self-critical, so when I see something, I see the problems. But I think an entrepreneur looks past the problems and sometimes is quite naive and therefore still succeeds, if you know what I mean. I think there's a bit of naivety helps you get, because you wouldn't do it. If you knew what was on the other side of the fence, you wouldn't do it.
No.
And I sometimes look over and think, I'm not doing that, but you obviously go for it.
There's good and there's bad with that. Like if you ask my accountant, she'd hate that trait. Whereas if you ask people that want my advice now and again, I think without trying to worry about what could go wrong, I focus on getting to the point where I need to get in little steps. So I'm like, right, what's the first step? We wanted to do an NEC arena and everyone talked me out of it. And then I was like, right, first thing is have a meeting, get that in the bag. What's next step? And, working through it in like little sections has helped me, but it's not all good. I'd say I'm within the 80-20 rule. 20% fails, 80% succeeds, and I've had some bad failures.
We'll talk about them in a minute. So let's jump back to school. You're naughty. You leave for your own accord at 14.
Yep.
You're living in poverty and not, struggling, I suppose, at this point. And then you decide to be a glass collector at the Emporium in Colville. How did that come about? Did you knock at the door? Or
What year was this?
So this would have been sort of 1998, 97, 98, around there. My next door neighbour was a doorman there. And he had a pickup truck, and I hid in the back under a sack of sand or something, and because I always said, take me to the club, take me to the club, take me to the club. And he was like, no, you're too young. So I just hid and then got out when I was there, and then sort of he swore at me a little bit and said, just get inside the club. And I've got a really cool little story, actually. The guy that welcomed me at the door then, it was the back door of the Emporium, was a guy called Matt Jimson. And Matt was the sort of bar manager, and it was like, look, there isn't actually a law. You can work as long as you don't get paid. You can't touch alcohol, blah blah blah. So I went collecting glasses, and there's a couple of other people there, and a girl approached me about a couple of years ago now and said she's looking for a job in event management, blah blah blah. And I was like, do you know what? I get loads of these emails. Come and have a quick meeting. We'll see if there's something for you. I wasn't really looking for another event manager in the office. She was really good, and she got a degree at Leeds University in Festival Management. And long story short, it turns out that's actually Matt Jimpson's daughter, Lily Jimpson.
Oh, really?
Which was incredible to think that Matt was the first person to give me a job. And out of all of the emails I get on a daily basis for people wanting a job, hers was the one I clicked on. You know.
Destiny.
And it was, yeah. But sorry, yeah. So started working at Emporium. It took me about 2 years to go from being glass collector up to glass collector manager. It is a thing.
Nice work.
And then in between all of that, you know, I'd sort of pestered Jason for records, and I'd spend most of the time just looking at the DJ booth, like...
This is JFK.
JFK, sorry.
Yeah.
Like, analysing the mechanics of it, but also, you know, I used to get goosebumps, like, every breakdown. There'd be a breakdown every sort of 8 minutes, with the records being that long them days. And it'd just be goosebumps, and I'd be like, I'm in heaven already.
Yeah.
And then carried on there a few more years, then went to the general manager, and then went on to being the general manager, then to the director, the managing director, and ended up staying there for about 15 years. But the early years were when we decided to do Storm, because it was just all dance music in sort of late 90s.
Was Passion there at this point?
It was just Passion then.
Yeah.
It was just Passion. And then obviously along came Rob Ferguson and sort of not changed my life, but I mean, I could tell you a million stories about Rob. And I used to nick all his records. And then I convinced my mum to buy me a belt drive Gemini deck that snapped every 10 seconds.
How did you meet Fergie then? Was he just DJing?
He kind of, you know, the story's a bit hazy because I wasn't partially included in this, but they got Nick Lunn. Well, no, Fergie got Nick Lunn. It was like, you know, they said to Fergie, Mark Walsh and Eric Schofield said to Fergie, look, do you want to come and do this? And Fergie was like, you know, I've got a lot on, there's loads going on. I mean, bearing in mind, these are the days where, you know, you'd have to carry him into the box. You'd have to try and prop him up. There'd be a lot of time that he'd go to the toilet and I'd have to jump on and put the needle on another record or the same record most of the time because he'd not made it back from the toilet in time. And then a lot of the time I'd just leave all his records on the floor and I'd scoop them up and say, you know, they're mine now.
Right.
And so, yeah, that took me to about 15 years ago, I think I left the Emporium, somewhere around there.
Yeah, because for those, the listenership on this podcast, a lot of them will be aware of Tidy and Hard House, but for those that don't, a bit of context, the Emporium was one of the clubs, wasn't it? The home of Storm, home of Passion. So
yeah.
It was a real sort of cornerstone of Hard House and trance, wasn't it? In the most unlikely place. We touched on it on a previous podcast, but it was the
It's
club.
definitely unique, and it's a bit like... you know, it's still open now through various different unique circumstances. But because of its location, it never really got on, and they call it the Triangle. Jules used to call it the Triangle a lot. It just managed to create a different level of energy that I think a lot of other clubs lacked.
Yes.
And for that reason, people didn't mind the trek and the mission of getting back.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it wasn't quite as reputable, and I see all these nostalgic posts on social media, and you see obviously sort of, you know, gate crash and all that stuff. Passion doesn't come up very much, and all of it really is all down to Jason JFK. If it wasn't for him, the Emporium probably wouldn't be there now. Passion's going stronger than it ever has, and you know, the future's bright for Passion. I'm not sure about the Emporium because I don't really have anything to do with it anymore, but.
Yeah.
But what about Storm? So you said, was it you, Nick Long and Fergie?
Yeah.
You decided one day to say, right, let's do a harder version of Passion and give it its own name and everything?
Well, it wasn't me because I was still sort of a spotty adolescent teenager, but I was sort of just observing everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Fergie did a monthly residency, Nick did a weekly residency, and then we split it out, Passion on the Saturday, Storm on the Friday. And then, you know, the workload doubled because I had to go set all the bars up during the week at the Emporium, work until 6 o'clock Friday night. My mum would pick me up at 6 in the morning. I'd have 3 hours sleep. I'd go to work from 9 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon as a volunteer at Our Price Records, which is an old record shop that no one can probably remember. And then I left there at 4 o'clock to go and work for a guy called Mark Aldridge at Icon Records because he used to pay me £4 an hour. So I then worked there until sort of 9 o'clock at night, and then I got picked up from Icon Records and took straight back to the Emporium to open at 11 to work from 11 till 6 with Passion. Sleep Sunday and do it all again the next day.
See, when we get this quite a lot with the podcast, when we start unpacking people's history. So people can see you now, James Dean, Jimmy Dean, the DJ promoter, but just to hear the backstory, the graft that you put in to achieve what you achieved today, I think it's quite fascinating. Fair play to you.
Yeah, it's not been easy.
Yeah,
but
it's not, is it? You know, people, because this generation now, a lot of the time, it's all social media driven, and people expect
turnkey.
You know, I want to be successful today. But when you hear the story of yourself,
I think my story is quite indicative, and you know, there's a lot of people with the same kind of story.
Yeah.
Of that kind of
that era, probably.
Of that era.
We touched on it today, and I think the today's generation probably wouldn't do that now. I can't imagine. Well, there might be some people out there, but the majority of them wouldn't do that sort of graft to get to that end goal. You clearly had an end goal. You knew where you wanted to be, and you pushed yourself really hard to do it. And I don't know, like Andy says, I think this generation probably want it on a silver plate more than doing the shitty graft.
But was there a plan? Did James Dean have a plan, or was it just that sort of survival mechanism?
You've hit the nail on the head, really. A lot of people ask me this, and I think the answer in simple terms is I wanted to push forward because I didn't want to go back to where I was. So you don't want to go back into the point where you've not got enough money to eat. You know, the windows were old council house windows, and they steamed up, and, you know, you'd wake up with sort of damp bed sheets, and, you know, it was just not a really cool place. But again, a lot of my friends were in the same boat. I was just determined to push forward. And then I think if you're persistent for so long, eventually shit happens.
Yes.
And that's what I am. I'm very persistent.
It's a bit of a sink or swim situation, isn't it? I think probably, like you said, survival, and you don't want to swim back to where you came from.
That's
so
it.
you keep going. So obviously, Storm sets up. Was that an instant success, Storm?
Instant.
Was it
Overnight.
literally overnight?
Yeah, 2,000 people overnight. Yeah.
So was that
first gig?
First gig.
Wow.
Straight in.
And did that bounce off the back of Passion?
Bounced off the back of Passion, because what was kind of happening was, you know, you'd have sort of Jeremy Healy and then Lisa Pinup playing after. And I mean, in a way, it's a shame, because it's a bit like what we were saying earlier about dance music just being dance music. This was the start of the segregation of different genres.
Yeah.
But it worked, and, you know, in the end, a lot of the same people came 2 days, Passion and Storm. And we actually built the Annex, which was the green room for the Millennium in 1999, because more people, I mean, Passion was constantly busy, always sold out, but Storm was getting to the same level, so we built the Annex out the back to sort of get the club up to 2,200, and great years.
Yeah,
great
years.
years.
As we started DJing together as the Tidy Boys in 1999, and although the label had started in 95 and we were successful as producers, as DJs, there were those clubs, those nights that you wanted on your CV.
Yeah.
And to go and play Storm, Progress, Slinky, and Storm was one of those nights, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2000, I think 8th of March 2000 we started, 8th of March 2000, yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the first things we'd done there, we did a Tidy Vision tour, which was taking our visuals out on the road, and I've got fond memories of this would have been 2001, and I think it was Storm Presents Tidy Vision, and that was absolutely rammed. But I've got other memories. I think there was one Halloween where you come up to me and says, "We've broke the record. There's 2,256 in here," and you had to turn the stage around the other way, and I remember you come up saying, "We've broke the record."
Yeah.
So there was some really, you know,
getting to the DJ box on those nights
Yeah.
was a bit of a task.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely hard work. I look at the determination I have now with all of the shows we've got around sort of the UK and Ibiza, and they're not as hard to promote as the Emporium, especially in as soon as the smoking ban kicked in. You know, the whole, not the bubble burst, but people kind of fell out of love with going week in, week out, maybe started going bi-weekly and then monthly. Like I say, the smoking ban, artist fees, agents' fees, and so it was kind of the start of the end of that era. But it was definitely, you know, I cut my teeth promoting shows like that, especially Halloween, and under the sort of radar, there was a lot going on to try and convince people to get there.
So what was the progression from you, glass collector manager, to being the DJ, promoter DJ? When did the DJing thing kick in? You'd been watching, learning.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was early on when Rob, Fergie had a little wobble every now and again. So I'd sort of jump on and wasn't really mixing, although by that time I'd already got some Citronics and, I was working my way up to direct drives. Still no CDs in them days, definitely no USBs. And I think it was 2008, 2007, around that time, an old flame, Nicholas Garbett, was given an opportunity, and I did a bit of DJing for him, and then I just managed to stay at the club to keep the wheels moving. There's a change of ownership, which was a bit of a rocky time for not really for me, but for everyone else. And then off the back of that, they were like, "You just do everything." And obviously, by that time, I think I'd got like 15,000 records or something. And so, natural progression.
So as a kid, what many people who say they were DJs, they said it was in them from young, and they knew they wanted to be a DJ. I suppose you did when you was a glass collector. Were you looking up thinking, I'd love to be DJing?
Every time I played a record, it completely made you forget about, no food, cold, poverty. And it weren't all bad as a kid, but music, and it still does to this day, has a very unique vehicle to completely remove yourself from whatever emotion that you're in, and normally a better emotion. And it also has the ability to zoom you back with one record to a specific time in your life.
Yeah.
And there isn't anything else in the world that can do that.
No, I think it's a famous quote, music is the shorthand of emotion.
Oh, I love that.
And it really is. I think and we get loads of emails from people, and it's really weird. You think hard house or hard trance wouldn't do that. You think people are going to listen to a ballad or something or something cheering. They generally listen to banging hard house, and it takes them out of that zone which is shit to a zone which is good, because they used to live for the weekend.
Yeah,
we all used to live for the weekend, and I think it takes them back to the glory days. So
yeah, and I think even now, especially with ADHD, because I've never not played fast-paced music. Subjective of what people think is hard house music that's harder house music, whatever. The beat of the drum in my brain is very concurrent with a 135 BPM record. And so naturally, when I'm now in the gym or anywhere, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have the odd day where I want to listen to some classic Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
I have the odd day where I walk in and sort of my home control system is a fourth generation Control 4 system. And if you walk into the house and you're talking or you're shouting, the house adapts and starts playing in Ludovico Einaudi. It reduces puts the water fountains on. It'll reduce the lighting settings to try the house calms you down. And most of the time it's Ludovico Einaudi. So I'm now a big Ludovico Einaudi fan.
Very cultured.
Very cultured. Yeah, I like that. Goes well with the name, the James Dean, and very cultured. So, right, we've done the Storm thing. That takes off. Tidy Boys are playing. They're good.
One of them is.
One of them's good. So you're now thinking about, like you said 2007 was a turning point with the smoking ban. I always butt in here and say there was something else happened in 2007, which was the licensing laws changed, where bars could stay open until 4 a.m.
yes,
as well.
That was a big one, yeah.
And the Super Club, where we all used to get kicked out of the bar and we had to go to the Super Club, that no longer applied, because you'd stay in the bar and hold on a minute, they've got a good DJ. Why am I going to walk down the road? And I think that was as important as well. So what did you do then when you saw the shift? Was at this point you think, shit, I've got to do something else?
Oh, God, we tried so many different things. The downside was the new owner wasn't as sort of forthcoming with new ideas, and they weren't making the money that the previous owners were in the sort of the heyday. So they didn't really give us much leeway. And at the time then, it was myself and Genix, Damo, Hoochin, he was running Passion, I was running Storm. And we tried every single thing you could think of, from bloody laser quasars to, we even thought about doing indoor weddings for some bizarre reason for people that wanted sort of nightclub weddings. And it was just, we were just chucking so much mud at the wall.
Yeah.
What can stick? And it kind of wore you down after a while. And then you went from having sort of regular events to segregated events, and then 2008 the global financial crisis kicked in, and that was kind of like the final 10% catalyst, which had a knock-on effect to some of the richer people that come out clubbing, and they were just kind of knocking on that. Obviously people were kind of getting out of the era as well. So
was Ecstatic Brewing at this point?
Yes, Ecstatic is 20 next year.
Right,
so I think it was 2015 we started Ecstatic, and that was really because I thought Storm was possibly
2005.
Sorry, 2005. My
yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
2005. Yeah, I actually started at the venue in Long Eaton with Amber and Sarah G.
Wow.
Were my first sort of residents. But I thought Storm was kind of, is it going to die? Is the music going to die? And so what can I do to counteract that? So along came Ecstatic, and it was really just very similar to Storm, with a little bit more passion. Pardon that. Sorry, Jason.
What was it different? You must have sat there. Was it too close? Looking at it now, it's very difficult to see where the difference is. But at the time when you set it up, you must have thought it was going to be different. How was it going to be different?
Well, I had the freedom to do, like, we did an Ecstatic Summer Garden Party, which was actually quite a big success. We sort of then could do variated club nights. We didn't have to stick to the same style of music, and so we had a bit more freedom because I owned the brand.
Yeah.
Whereas the owners were very clutchy, and also there were set fees. I think when we was doing a frantic tour, they was like, "No, we want X amount," and I was like, "This is not the real world."
So, the owners of the Emporium owned the Storm brand. Was that how it happened?
The previous owners did,
right?
But ultimately, because Jason created passion, and it was his idea to create Storm through the means of copyright and copyright law, Jason owns it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so at this time, as things are progressing, the entrepreneur within you, were you just purely focused on the music, the clubs, the events, or was there other stuff happening?
No. So I managed to save up all the money. So I started an online record store called Plastic Explosion, which failed miserably. And we were selling, it was literally as the internet came about, we were trying to sell the records from Icon that people didn't want to buy. I mean, there was loads of great stuff in there. In fact, a lot of the stuff that's being played now is a lot of stuff me and Sam still play now from 20 years ago, like the bassline wobblers and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we had loads of problems trying to set up Plastic Explosion, but at the same time that had happened, I managed to save about $5,000 up, and the lady next door to us, Ethel her name was, I used to get a newspaper when I used to come back from the Emporium slightly awake on a Sunday morning, and I used to get her News of the World, and it was just like a religious thing. Every week I got her News of the World, and she said one day to me, "Look, I'm moving into a care home, do you want to buy my house?" And I was thinking, wow, I mean, I don't know how to buy a house, never done it before, 18 years old. So went down to the bank manager's name was Roger Deacon at Burton-on-Trent, Lloyds TSB, and I walked in and I was like, "I want a mortgage." And he was like, "Okay, James." I was like, "I want a mortgage, I've got $5,000, here it is." And he was like, "Okay, fine." Tap. Used my my pay slips that I got from the Emporium, and managed to buy a house for $37,000, and then realised that if I painted it and put some new carpets in, I could sell it for $42,000. So then sold it, and then brought another one, and sold that, brought another one, and so RJD Property Developments started, which is now RJD Property Developments. And yeah, I guess I've renovated a house at least one a year, every year since I was 18. A couple of commercial buildings now, there's a bit more money in them.
Really? Fantastic. So that's been a success story for you. So where did that take you with that business? Is that a big part of what you do, the property development, or just like
massive?
Yeah.
It's the most stable, unlike putting events on. I think when putting events on, you might as well go to a casino with £5 million and put it on red or black, right? Because that's normally your odds.
Yeah.
Margins are ridiculously small. And so I needed, if I wanted to carry on putting events on, which is what I really love, I needed to find something to back up if I either fucked up. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, you can swear really badly if you want.
If I fucked up, then I had a mechanism to get myself out of the hole. So I ended up setting up a rental portfolio, which is a pain in the arse now because of the new government, but that's a different story. And that when I had a little bit of a wobble, so I think 2012, I had a little bit of a wobble with events, and so I was like, remortgage that one, put the money in. And so I used the property company to stabilise the events for longevity.
That's dangerous, though. No wonder your accountant sometimes...
My accountant's like my mother. I've had the same accountant for 15 years.
Yeah.
I as a businessman, I sent my accountant some wine the other day.
Oh, definitely. Whiskey, wine, anything.
My accountant's down your way in Derby, actually, Kate.
It's not Maple Accountants, is it?
No, Sealy Shore. As if you're in business, having a good...
I won't be here if I...
A good accountant.
100%.
It's the biggest asset you can have.
100%. I pay a lot of money for my accountant, but I don't think with their skills I would be in business now.
Likewise.
Yeah. So I'm lucky in that way.
Champion to all the accountants that are watching.
But there are I think the point is there are accountants and there are accountants.
Yes.
And there is a line with accountancy, and you've got to be the right side of that line.
Yeah, you can dance up to it, dance around it a little bit.
Yeah. It's called tax planning.
It's tax planning, yeah.
Yeah, it's bending the rules but not breaking them.
Bending them, not breaking them, yeah. And that's probably why I'm going to be spending a bit more time in Dubai soon.
All right, okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, I was just going to say, you're dead right, because we're obviously promoters as well. When you put an event on, it is a 50-50. Sometimes it's probably even less than that. And probably more so now than it was back then. Probably it's even more of a gamble because people don't go out as much as they used to. You have to since COVID, you have to pull them out the chair to get them.
Yeah.
We have a lot of no-shows at our events, so that can affect particularly you with the bar takings. And that's one thing that we've probably let ourselves down as promoters. We've never got it into that bar take, whereas you were very clever and started your events by having the bar, which saved you probably.
Definitely. I actually said to Andy earlier, if it wasn't for the fact that I own 90% of everything now, we definitely wouldn't be in business. I mean, we had a show very recently that cost sort of 7 figures to put on, and it made 3%. So spending £1 million to make 30 grand isn't great business sense, but circumstances like Hurricane Lillian or whatever her fucking name was, that's the dice that you roll, and so it's
more of a gamble with outdoor events, because that I was going to say, all our events are usually safe from the weather, but you've really, British weather, you have really gambled.
Yeah, and it's really with it. I mean, we've got 16 festivals next year, one every weekend from April to September, and then as well as that, we're doing a sort of a globally touring Mambo orchestra. Not quite sure how my time's going to be spent at the minute, but mitigating the risk across all of them. So it actually makes more sense to spread the risk out on the smaller shows that we do. Again, the 80-20 rule, wind, rain. Also, socio-economics, we tend to pick areas like we've got Stratford on Avon next year, we've got Richmond in Surrey, we've got Norwich, we've got Telford, we've got Bromsgrove, and we're Beacon Park, Lichfield, second highest population of retired millionaires in the country after Sandbanks. So there's a lot of research goes into it so that you hit the right area with a little bit of help from things like ChatGPT to work out what the top 10 most listened to Spotify lists are in Warrington compared to Richmond. We formulate the tribute bands and the artists and the entertainment off the back of massive layers of research, and then back it up with we own the fencing, we own the toilets, we own the bar, now we own the medical company, I own the security company, we own the marquees. We've got a lot of lorries now as well, so we're just like a rolling circus.
Well, that's brilliant. I remember one event, I'm not sure it was, I think we played at a festival, and you coming up to me saying, What a fucking weekend. Oh, this is... I forget what it was. It might have been an Ecstatic Festival, but you were about to jump in a river and you said...
happens a
so
lot.
what is... we're in the good stories. Let's hear a really bad story. What's been the darkest moment as far as an event concerned?
The darkest moment, I mean, there's been a lot, and everyone always sees, the swan gliding across the water and not the ship below.
Yeah.
Because you generally are, when we see you at a festival, you generally still smile.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah.
The darkest day was coming out of COVID. We were speaking to the Home Office. We'd spent about 650 grand on the lineup. It was Back 2 Festival 2021. And we were on the phone to the Home Office because most of our artists are Europeans. So Aqua, Two Unlimited, Sash, all these are all Europeans, and that's where our business was based, really, around those artists. So on the phone to the Home Office, 10 days to go until we could the show started. So we were literally 2 weeks away from the build, a day away from the build. And the Home Office was like, no, sorry, Mr. Dean, you can't bring European artists over. So I was like, fuck, and obviously I'd already paid them. Oh. So then you have to rattle the box and go out and rebook a complete new lineup, spend another 400 grand on the hope that you get your money back from the Europeans, or roll them over to the next year. And so the day that we'd signed the contract, paid the money on the new artist, Dizzy Rascal being the first one, the day after that, the Home Office rang and said, you can bring him in now, and I was fucking too late.
Oh, God.
So then what happened was, that same night, we'd just launched Dizzy Rascal and loads of other UK artists, because you can only keep UK people there. Gets home from day one of the site build, my phone's going mental. I'm like, what's the problem? Look on Sky News, turn Sky News on. On that same day, Dizzy Rascal on the news for attacking his wife. Subsequently, may I say, he got acquitted. But at that time, I was like, I need my money back, 65 grand. His exact words were, through his agent, suck my dick, fam. Word for word, no lie. That's the exact words. So then I had to get a little bit of help from Judge Jules, of all people, to get my money back, which I did get back. And then, obviously, all of the artists rolled over to the next year. So it gets to almost show day, the day before show day, and one of the big top companies, I won't name them, had agreed to put the big top into the show, and rang up and they were like, I'm sorry, Jim, the money's gone back into your bank for the big top. I was like, literally, we're 2 days away from opening. There's like, we've took a lot more money from Creamfields, like 5 times as much as, like, I'll do your discount. I was like, you can't do this to me. So I ended up getting a big top from Germany. It cost me 5 times too much anyway. God. And then 3 hours before we're about to open, in one of our cabins with the security guard, all of the change, a lot of money in change, all the wristbands, all the radios, everything's locked in a sealed and locked metal cabin. And put the key in the door, key snapped off. There's like 7,500 people at the gate, already pissed off because I've had to wait a little bit anyway. And so there's a picture of me with a welding mask on and an angle grinder, grinding this door off. And someone else from, I think, ITV came on site, and they came into the press area, and there's a picture of me, and I don't smoke, with a fag in my mouth and a Macallan 18 neat, and that was probably the darkest day.
Darkest moment.
Wow.
Yeah, well, yeah, it puts, we have had some dark days, but that kicks ours into touch.
Our Pontins problems,
because obviously COVID affected us as well. We had our 2020 cancelled, and then we were just about to put our 2021 on, and Boris Johnson, we were going to be the first event out of COVID, and then Boris Johnson said, I think we need another 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And we had to cancel again. So we had to give 97 grand's worth of refunds.
Yeah, horrendous.
And then that follows on. So what we, like you, entrepreneurs, I tell you what, we could do a gatecrasher and just burn everything down, or we could actually put another one on next week and claw back that money next year and claw it back. So we've always tried to do what you do, which is fight your way out of a paper bag to put the next one on.
Yeah, now that's that. I mean, I'm not going to lie, we are still fighting. I mean, we've not fully recovered from COVID, and then, like, to top it all off, the government decided to change the rules on things like you're not allowed to use red diesel on site. So whereas our normal fuel bill for the year would be 110 grand, with red diesel for the season, now it's like 240 grand because you've got to buy petrol from the pumps and white diesel, which is horrendous. Yeah, and then all of it, where do you find another 120 grand from?
Yeah.
But you still have the passion for putting events on, it would appear.
I can't stop.
Yeah.
I just can't stop.
That's
Maybe
what.
if it was too easy, you probably would do it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a good team. It's really important to say, I've got a full office of
Yeah.
staff, graphic designers, marketing assistants, marketing managers, event managers, they've got a massive team. My wage bill's massive every month, so it's not just me.
And obviously, Ibiza has been a firm fixture in your event schedule for a number of years now. When did that start?
Yeah, obviously, as you know, Tidy, was my first. I used to come and watch you guys back in the day, 2005 onwards, I think, somewhere around there.
Yeah, we did the Tidy Boot Camp, I think, yeah.
Yeah, and then then it went on to Atomic Boot Camp.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And Mr. Davis decided not to do it anymore, so then we did Ecstatic. It's a labour of love with Ecstatic in Ibiza. Luckily, JP sort of takes care of most of it, and it's the same kind of format. But I decided, because I love the island so much, I'd love to have the money to buy a beautiful villa near the sea there. Can't afford it, but maybe in the future. I was like, right, there's something here with our very niche, like I always describe back to audiences as the tidy audience. There's about, of the 10, 12,000 that come, there's about 2,000-3,000 of them that'll follow me everywhere. They'll sort of, they love what we do. And so we copy and pasted that over to Ibiza Rocks Hotel, and run a format there. And I think this is next year will be the 7th year, barring the year 2021, although the rules were very different in Ibiza then. So you could still put events on, but you had to sit down. So we had a radio in my ear on the main stage at Ibiza Rocks, and I think you had like Martin Kemp singing or someone in the Wenger Boys. And then I had a radio to Christian, the head of security, and he was like, Guardia, Guardia, Guardia. And then I had to get on the mic, tell everyone to sit down, and the time it'd take from the police to go from the entrance of Ibiza Rocks to the balcony, it's like everyone had to sit down and be like, you know what I mean?
Wow.
And then because the fine was 250 grand, and Wayne Lineker just paid it and just thought, fuck it, he paid it, but my pockets aren't that deep, so we had to sit the fuck down.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we do like the Ibiza. We enjoyed the Ibiza Rock. I think it's a good concept. So you say it's a labour of love. Obviously, I think as a promoter, I think a lot of things can become labours of love. But you clearly have got the passion to just do it. Sometimes, as your accountant would say, for no reason and just because you want to. Is that?
I think without sounding morbid, in 50 years we're all going to be dead anyway.
Pretty much.
So-
Probably 40 for me.
So,
14.
14, yeah. I'm 60 next year, Jimmy.
wow,
Yeah.
He is, yeah.
Yeah. So
Looks good, doesn't he?
incredible.
Oh, thank you.
I had a good life.
There's good lighting in here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Botox helps. I think the fact is that what else would I do? I mean, I could just go and do the easy thing, be a property developer. That would be the easy route. But then what would I do? I pretended to try and semi-retire last year.
I remember.
Remember?
Yeah,
That
we
was
had,
the last
we had
conversation we had
lunch.
here.
Yeah, we had lunch.
And, I went learning how to shoot and fucking pretending to play golf. I ended up smashing golf carts up and whacking the ball behind me more than forward. And I was like, who am I fucking pretending to be here? Retire? What a twat.
How old are you, Jimmy?
I was 40 in April. And so...
Too early.
It wasn't the fact that, I could retire if I wanted. It's the fact that what the fuck would you do? What would I do that would make me as happy? And I think a little bit, my therapist is a little bit concerned that I've become accustomed to that level of intense stress, where any other ordinary neurotypical brain would literally cave in at the thought of having this level of stress. But it's almost like it's the norm for me now. It's a sad thing in a way, actually.
Yeah. It's almost an addiction, isn't it? Some people get addicted to the gym, some people get addicted to food, drugs, but you're addicted to the stress and the fear of it not working is probably something that drives you.
Yeah, and wine. I love wine, and I don't want to be addicted to that. But I think my therapist, who I've had the same therapist for 8 years, has always said to me, "I just want people to like me," and I guess I do want people to like me. I'm a good person. I want to make people happy through the medium of music. A lot of the time it shot me in the arse because, I was selling tickets to festivals. The Sosh Cider Festival came about where I wanted to recreate Glastonbury because all of the people on my estate couldn't afford to go. But I started off at a ridiculous price point, like £4 or something, and then to try and move a festival which had its 10th year this year with 15,000 people, move a festival price point up when they've been so used to paying, I think it was £8.50 a day for their camping, £8.50 a day for their arena ticket. And then on top of that, you've got VAT, PRS, which not a lot of people believe you still pay PRS for tribute bands, and I really love the PRS. To try and move people up in price because they've been so accustomed to me giving them things so cheap because I wanted them to be able to have the memories of putting something on like Glastonbury but not affording it. That's kind of shot me in the arse a little bit now, you know. So
what, just by putting up a few quid?
You guys probably know more than anything, you know, the price point. It still shocks me to this day when I see shows at the Emporium and it's like 20 quid to get in, and like that was exactly the same price when inflation was sort of, you know, 42% less 20 years ago. Doesn't stack up, and hence the reason why we have to do the bar. We own all of the food now. I own 7 food units, all the food trucks we own. I spent a lot of money with an Indian company and Daily of Storm fame creating our own ticket website on TYX, so now we own 100% of the booking fees. Without all of these things, I brought a glamping company as well, forgot about that one.
Medics? I
brought a medical company now, so we've got 10 ambulances and a CQC number and everything. Without all them things, you would have been gone years ago. You know, and I was saying to Andy earlier, you know, how do you get to the point where, you know, the business model of Tidy can try and you don't need to fleece any of the customers. You know, what the other angles to make income from it, you know.
Yeah, you've got to own the infrastructure, haven't you?
Got to have the infrastructure.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a vision and a little bit of change.
So there's the entrepreneur, the businessman. I noticed that there's more DJing happening in your world. So has that been a conscious decision that you just said there, you know, you'd like to be liked, as we all do? We're all performers, and it's like myself, I'm quite withdrawn off stage, but when I get on stage, there's nothing finer than that moment, is there?
I didn't really stop. I've never stopped playing music, and I've just been very fortunate, and I think it's down to persistence.
Yeah.
And soon, if you keep knocking on the door, people eventually let you in. And I've had some incredible gigs this year. I've got some crazy gigs next year. I think like last weekend I played after Jax Jones, and I was playing what I normally play, house music that's hard. And I think I was playing a Digital Kid track, Nobody Likes Record You Play. And Jax turned around to me and was like, send me this. And I was like, well, what are you playing tonight? He was like, I'm playing hard house. I was like, what? And he starts off with bits and pieces. And I'm like, I knew my plan over the last 24 months of getting this new refreshed vision of hard house out to the public is definitely on point now. So I've been lucky enough to play at quite a lot of festivals. You know, I've been asked to play at Pikes this year, got booked again for next year, playing at Ocean Beach in Dubai. There's loads of places that I wouldn't have ever thought about playing that knock on the door. I think Back to festivals helped a lot with that because that's opened me up to a different audience. I don't know why, but you know, this weekend I'm playing at Cream Weekender. Last weekend played at We Call It Dance, Passion Classics, and you know, all these small clubs. The crazy thing is, all of the shows that I'm doing at the minute, Bobby T's on every one.
Oh, always.
I'm like
every arena.
It's like we need to start creating some kind of dinner party and start podcasting.
He is the busiest man in show business.
He is. It doesn't matter where I am in the country.
No,
you know, he's always on the show.
He never says no to a gig. You know, I think he's played some really massive gigs, but then he'll play something for 50 people, somebody's birthday for 50 people. He really does. He never says no. But that's also, you probably don't know where yet. Have you had the email? You're playing at the Tidy Weekender.
Yeah, Sam let me know. I'm looking forward to that, and it kind of coincides at the right time because I've got I would call it a hard house track coming out on Anjuna Beats around that time.
Oh wow!
It's a remix of John the Dentist, and so there's a lot of TikTok algorithm people like hovering around it because they're good with stuff like that. So it's good timing, and yeah, I just love playing music. You know what I mean? I just love playing music.
Weekenders, you've obviously been to many. What we always ask people on our podcast is, because this is called the Tidy 30, we're 30 next year and we're celebrating, we've got the 30th birthday and it's our big weekender. What's your thought about the Tidy Weekenders? Is there still some magic there? Or what was your first experience?
My first experience, I think, was Magna, and it was just a mind blown. Obviously, working at Emporium, I'd seen queues. Magna was a whole new level of people queuing to get in. Energy levels ridiculous. People dressed up. Magazine people everywhere. It was another level of energy, and that sticks in my head massively. The weekenders, I've never really been one to stay all weekend, even when I was younger. And as much as I like the accommodation, I'd prefer to sleep in something more that is a little bit less like a Rizzler.
Yeah, Pontin's accommodation wasn't ace.
We fixed that though, Jimmy, this year.
I've heard. I've spoken
lodges. We've got lodges.
I've spoke to a lot of people about your new site, and not one person in the industry has come back, and in the nicest way, some of them have been surprised that we've been able to get into such high level of precedence. So please look after it, everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Please look
Park
after
Dean.
it.
Yeah, Park Dean in Great Yarmouth, weekend 25th of April next year. If you haven't got your tickets, there's still some available. The rooms, we went down there, we've been there twice. I said I wanted to live there, didn't I?
Yeah, in fact, you booked a weekend with a wife.
2 weeks later, I was having a dirty weekend with the wife there.
So you've actually lived it.
He actually did.
I lived, yeah. And we did make a mess.
Oh, dear.
So you're looking forward to next April. Obviously, you're playing the Weekender. Is there any other gigs you wished you'd played? Me and Andy had a list of boxes we wanted to tick. Is there any sort of gigs previously no longer with us, or that you would have said, do you know what, I'd love to play that?
I was quite lucky. I played Amnesia about 5 weeks ago at 5 a.m, Hard House again, at the Kevin and Perry show. And everyone thought, it's that time of day where everyone's going to leave. And it was fast, it was energetic, everyone stayed, and that was one of the highlights of my year. I mean, playing Hard House at Pikes was mad.
You played Hard House at Pikes?
I was playing flat out Hard House. I played in Freddie Mercury's bathtub.
Wow.
And it was mad. And they absolutely loved it. It was only probably the size of this room, but you couldn't. It was just you had to let them in for half an hour and then out, and then the next one in for half an hour.
We were talking about this over lunch earlier on, weren't we? About hard house, or it's hard house, but not as
house music harder.
See, I remember we played Mambo, didn't we, back in the day?
Yeah.
We got told to get off the decks, and we were playing. It's Untidy Dubs -6,
Yeah.
whereas now
Fully acceptable.
hard house,
Yeah, fully
harder
acceptable.
edged music is everywhere, isn't it?
And I think Patrick Toppin is one of the main catalysts in this, because he's a clubber at heart. If you listen to all his podcasts, I don't know the guy, but I've done a lot of research on him, and the reason why he's had this power to be able to slightly change the needle so that we've gone back into a world where there's no segregated genres. I'm a techno DJ, I'm a trance DJ, you can just play what you like.
Yes.
And when he played slightly pitched down Paul Glasby Hostile at the end of his set at Creamfields, I can remember running up to you two when you played for us at Ibiza Rocks in 2021 going, what the fuck is going on here? And I think at this time Eats Everything was playing at Trade, and then on top of that you've got radio, obviously, with Hannah and Ben. They're on Radio 1 playing the slightly harder music, so it's allowed now to play the slightly harder sounds. But then, as well as that, I've watched a lot of people's sound change, and you've got Malucci, Amara, Soul Transit, Mass Systems, as well as Drax Nelson, these kind of people that are smashing it through the boundaries. And I even had a conversation. I had dinner with Majestic in London a few weeks ago, and the topic of conversation was he wanted to start playing harder, so he's just joined Cal at CAA, same agency as Hannah Lane. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how can we make people like Todd Edwards, old Gary's DJ, and get his sound a bit harder. And I've had a conversation with a producer called Friend Within. You probably haven't heard of him, but Friend Within, I've been smashing his sets with his 120, 130 BPM written tracks and playing them at 138. Absolutely destroying. Everyone's like, what is this? And I'm like, well, it's just this, but faster, and it's like hard house. It's house music that's hard. And then even on the way here, my phone rang when I launched the new Storm Ecstatic lineup, and it was Nathan Doyle, who's like, dinner, 6 o'clock. And I know what he wants. He wants to play hard house at these shows. So there's a massive shift at the moment. And what I'm trying to do is, the theory is, and I've been mentioning this to you guys for years, and Sam, it's kind of happening now, is that when people go to Creamfields and see Patrick Toppin, 25,000 people in front of the trick stage, if, for example, you played after, or Lisa Lashes played after, Lisa Pinup, Sam and Dino played after, the revolution would start, because ultimately, they're playing what we created over the last 20 years. Without you guys, or us, guys, all of us playing at places like that, to let the new 18 to 24s know who we are, and it wasn't happening. So I left it, wait for, people to start booking that in. So I thought, fuck this, I'll do it myself. So today we launched the Ecstatic Storm lineup to coincide with Cameron Watson's Radio 1 Tune of the Week today. And we've integrated it. So people that are going to come and see Shaq, that are going to see Soul Transit Mass Systems, and then also Cameron Watson, Danny Bond, that are on this lineup with you, me, Lisa, they're going to turn up, and we've already seen a massive spike this morning in tickets sold to 1824s, because Cameron's got millions on his socials, TikTok. It's happening.
Yep.
And so after Cameron plays, for example, you guys come on, and it's not rocket science. Before you know it, you've got another 15, 20, 30,000 followers that are all in the 1824 bracket. And kind of away we go again. And I am absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, unequivocally believe the best years are yet to come in our sector of house music that's harder, hard house, whatever you call it. The downside is, I know there's going to be a lot of people listening to this, looking at that lineup this morning going, like, who the fuck's that? What the fuck is this? And we're not
break the mold, haven't we?
We've got to break the mold. The time, it's got to move, because ultimately they're already playing and coining the fact. Like Amara, for example, who someone I've been speaking to the last few days, has got, I guess we'd class it as slightly European hard house, club heads kind of stuff, but it's just hard house to everyone. So forget about the genre. We're still going to call it hard house. I've decided to call it harder house, because it's house music that's harder. And I've signed a contract with a venue in Ashby de la Zeus to create 6 shows next year in a boiler room style fashion, 700 capacity, where I'm going to be basically introducing Amara, Malucci, Interplanetary Criminal, Tidy Boys, Sam and Dino, Amara, and all of these people combined to kickstart the catalyst of getting back to where we were. I'm not saying it's going to come rolling back like it was in 2000, but if I didn't do it, I'd kick myself if, the next festival that pops up is on Longmarsh Airfield with 50,000 people, and it's called Hard House with Malucci and the Tidy Boys, and it wasn't mine.
I like your idea.
I
like
think
it a lot.
I think you've done what we've been thinking about, because we could never quite work out with the success of Hard House now and the younger generation how the planets align with the past that's, like you said, created it all. And we were struggling in the office to, well, how can we become relevant? And Hannah Lane said to us, I grew up listening to Tidy. When she played the Weekender, she said it was the best event ever because her mum and dad were into it. So it was a dream come true for Hannah. But there's a difference between who Hannah's playing to and who we are. But I think what you've just said there, it makes sense to put it all together. So we can experience, our audience can experience the new generation, and the new generation can experience where it came from. And
exactly.
The people.
Because all the tunes are getting dropped in the big DJ sets. James Hype.
James Hype started off with a Tidy track.
Yeah.
I mean, I could make a list as long as your arm about the DJs now that are basically playing either pitched down hard house. Malucci played Boiler Room, one of the biggest viewed boiler rooms in history. 5th or 6th track in, smoking Bert Cooper, and I'm like, "Way, here we go." It blows my mind, and I've been waiting for a couple of years now to sort of make this leap, because it's not going to be cheap. A lot of these have gone switched from local friend agent.
Yep.
The second they're into the wave of TikTok algorithm, they're on CAA and they're 25 grand. So to get the lineup that I've got, especially with Cameron now, before the wave is on its crest.
Yes.
Because by the time we get to Ecstatic Festival in August, my guess is, if he follows suit with the rest of them, he's going to be a bit like with you and Hannah.
Yep.
That's where we are. The good thing is all of them are going to places like CAA, UTA, and because I already spend millions of pounds with them, with artists like, Steps, UB40, blah, 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 they already know who I am. So I'm knocking on the door going, oh, I do this as well. And they're like, oh, yeah, wicked, here you go. Yeah. So, like, being able to get sort of Inter and sort of Malucci and all of these people is now a very doable thing for me, and trying to get it so the finances work so that we don't expose ourselves to risk in the early conceptual years whilst we're still going on this emergence of old and new and try not to alienate any of them. That is the bit I've not worked out yet.
Yeah.
That I need to kind of get to, so I can sort of find out where we are.
As we found at Tidy, the agents are the gatekeepers naturally to the talent.
Do you want to start on agents?
Yeah, let's have a moment.
It's like us we got Hannah Lane on our Tidy Weekender lineup, which was 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
2 years ago,
and we caught her. We'd booked her early, so we paid very little money for her. Then she didn't quadruple in fee. She, add 20, times 20 to the fee.
And this is just not. It's not even basic maths.
But we would never have got her on that lineup if it was up to the agent because she wanted to play it.
Yes, and that's the biggest problem. And I can tell you a lot of stories where artists have said yes, an agent has said no. I'm not going to individually name them because you definitely know a lot of them. And Clockwork Orange guys were telling me a very similar story not long ago. But an agent has a sole purpose. They don't give a fuck about their artists. Not all of them, but 99% of them. I mean, you guys are actually quite lucky because Barry Amphlett is actually one of the relatively decent ones.
Good fellow.
I've been on the phone to him a lot over the last 2 or 3 weeks. He shares my vision very much with what we're doing with the new Hard House stuff. The agents, if they're getting 10% of $2,500, after they've split it between, the agent boss, any partners, not a lot. But if you're charging 25, 30 grand, they're getting a lot more money, and those dynamics don't work. They just segregate. The agents are a big reason why Sacha Lord and Mike Hill from the NTIA are saying that nightclubs are going to be extinct by 2029. That's definitely a massive part of agents, and it's really nice to see people like James Hype, friend of mine Nathan Dord, doing these small shows in smaller venues to try and filter the funds down. But I know, as a matter of fact, James Hype had to really fight with his agency to get that to happen.
Yes.
And so did Nathan. So, what does that tell you about the industry? I mean, I'll tell you a quick story, and I'm happy to name this. And so we'd got an agreement with Scooter for 80 grand, and, respect to the man in the ice cream van job.
Yep.
And we'd sort of said, right, okay, 80 grand, back to his 10th birthday. And left it a few weeks. I was like, contracted info deposits. I was like, we've decided we want 200 grand now.
What?
£200,000. And I was like, can you just backtrack and explain to me how? There's like, well, they've just finished an arena tour and blah, blah, blah. And but if they've just finished an arena tour, it means they're actually more diluted because people have seen them again.
Yes.
So how are you getting to that conclusion? And second of all, without showing you all the costs for this show, on what planet do you think a ticket would warrant that level of money? I mean, inflation, 5%, 3%, 7%, 10% a year. I get that. It's our job to try and drag the ticket price up every year in line with inflation, and that's hard. But these figures are fucking ridiculous, I won't tell you the agency, but there was a famous band that had 7 people in it. They used to sing a lot of pop songs, and it was originally 3 of them that I used to pay a couple of grand to. They did, 5 or 6 shows every year. They played at the same show as you in Ibiza Rocks that year. Band decides to reform through a very well-known former producer that knows Simon Cowell, very friends with Simon Cowell.
Yep.
And instead of being 3.5 grand now, because there's another 4 band members now, he wants 65 grand. So I'm like, at what point do you say to my audience, the ticket price is this because you're getting another 4 members of this band of original 7? There'd be no monetary value for our audience going from a 3-piece to a 6 or 7-piece, and that extra 50 grand, 55 grand. It doesn't make logical sense.
To hear the same tracks, basically.
To hear the same tracks, and So, I mean, I have so many arguments with agents, and some of them won't speak to me. I've been ripped off horrendously by a Stoke-on-Trent agency this year that I'll never work with again. But it's a small world, but there are good agents. Barry Amphlett, is a good agent. I mean, me and Barry Armand have a love-hate relationship, but we bumble through. Liz and Kasha from Exasia, these are agencies that you ring up, tell them what the crack is, and they'll do their best to make things happen to a degree. So they're not all bad, but I do put them down to, killing off a lot of enthusiasm, nightclubs, and I just hate them.
Well, you can imagine it's what it's like for us as promoters who haven't got the bar, haven't got the infrastructure.
Yeah.
If Tidy wanted to put an event on without what you've got, and we've got to make the ticket price match, and let's just say we wanted to book Hannah or Patrick Topping, we couldn't make it work.
No.
Impossible for us to make it work.
But I love the way you're going, because previously agents wouldn't allow their talent to go on our lineup because you were aligning yourself with Hard House and us kind of DJs.
How the tables turn.
Whereas it's going full circle. So what
I
you're
love that.
doing now,
I love that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think if we could push it forward with a Tidy Boys and Shack track, or I'm just thinking hypothetically, I know that Lisa Lashes has got some really interesting things coming out next year.
She has.
I'd like to get Amara and maybe Malucci to do some collaborations with a couple of the sort of original sort of hard house artists, male or female, maybe create some kind of album, because obviously events tend to spawn off the back of music created, as you guys know, masters at it. So I'm more excited than I've ever been for this, and I think you guys should be too, and I think the general public should. Because there's still something for everyone. Ecstatic Festival, there's still the Ecstatic stage, which is just traditional hard house. There's then the main stage that has all of these new artists mixed with you and Lisa, which is going to be the catalyst of the future. And then I'm doing Storm's. I'm not going to call it birthday. We're going to call it Storm 25, because it's important that the new kids, your son, if he sees something on a flyer that does say it's Storm's 25th birthday, who wants to go to a 25th birthday? They want it to be new and fresh. So I'm dropping the birthday part, and we're launching on the 8th of March at this arena in Ashby with this boiler room style set with Fish Octagon and Fergie, and still got Pin Up, Amara and a few others. And then not going to be a massive money spinner. That's not really for money. It's really to create the new evolution that will mean when you guys email CAA, UTA for an artist, they go, oh yeah, Malucci's actually just done something with Fergie or whatever, and they're a little bit more softer to it.
Yeah.
It's just going to take time. It's going to take a lot of patience, and but it's fucking exciting.
I think it is. I think you've cracked the nuts that we've been trying to crack for probably about 12, 18 months. That trying to bring the old with the new, make it work, not piss off your old audience, get your new audience excited. If we can make it work, we've got 3 or 4 years of this where it's going to boom. Yeah. Then who knows? It'll go back underground again.
Exactly. It's one of them sort of sticker. You've got to try and make sure that we are at the very, very forefront, with Radio 1 more likely to play hard dance now on daytime 9 to 5. Let's make sure that all of the artists and even the unsung heroes that have made tracks that aren't even recognised a lot, I kind of owe it to them. If it comes back round in this way that we've, a variation of Hard House, it's got to include everyone else that's contributed to what the industry is, that all of these big artists are now playing.
Yep.
Yeah. Respect. Well, we look forward to this. It sounds like a good year. There's lots of birthdays, anniversaries and relaunches next year. I think 2025 is probably going to be a very exciting year for all of us. Before Andy asks his very special question, which a lot of people look for, it's going to test you. Yeah. I overheard you talking about doctors and surgery and stuff. Can we...
The entrepreneurial brain of James Dean. Yeah, I was having lunch with you earlier on, and I had to sort of say, just repeat that. And so James Dean, the glass collector, DJ, promoter, producer, house developer, he said, yeah, I've just opened a doctor's surgery or something. So I said, what, James?
Trying to be efficient in events. Basically, I was when in the year I pretended to be retired, I found a company that was for sale. It was a pre-existing medical company. And I looked with the accountant at what we were spending on medical provisions for all of our shows. And it stacked up that in year one, if I brought this medical company, then ultimately it would pay for itself in a year. So that was the first plan, and owning everything in house. So I brought the company, bought a fleet of ambulances. The next level was getting a CQC number. So out of about 15,000 medical companies in the country, only about 4% of them are CQC registered. What that means is ultimately, if in our area, for example, people rang 999 for an ambulance and there wasn't enough capacity, they could divert the phone to us and we could send our ambulances out. So A, help the people in the area, B, helped reduce the cost for events like mine up and down the country. And then so that worked perfectly well this year, but I've got an office block with a car park full of ambulances. So I'm thinking, okay, shit, what do we do in winter, with the staff and the ambulances and everything else, apart from, there's some massive government contracts that you can go for that are 6 years and multi-million quids and stuff. But so I said to my medical director, I was like, I want to go to a doctor's surgery, private one. I want to, I rang a doctor for my daughter and it was like, if it's not emergency, it's 8 weeks. I was like, what the fucking 8 weeks is all about? Yep. And if you try to go to A&E, if they don't send you away, you're lucky if you're in 12 hours, maybe 18 hours. It's fundamentally flawed. So we went through all the paperwork, and long story short, we are weeks away from opening our first affordable private health centre, GP surgery, and it will do everything from cancer screening is what the documents have been signed, and it's the cancer screening bit where we can pre-test for pre-existing cancer and give you the results immediately, as well as usual things like STI screening, vaccinations, MOTs for things like lorry drivers, and just in general, we stock the top 10 most prescribed drugs. We have consultants, we have a small sluice room so we can perform minor surgeries on site, lesions, skin tags, moles, stuff like that. There's a lot of business to business as well. So if you're an employer, and part of your package to recruit includes, you and your family being able to see a doctor within an hour, 7 days a week, because that's one of the big USPs. We're open 7 days a week, Saturday, Sunday, 12 hours a day. Brilliant. And so, rushing to get this one open and then copy and paste it in Lichfield. But a lot of paperwork, a lot of time, loads more paperwork. And but we've done it all now. We're just waiting for the minor things.
Do you ever sleep?
Normally about 4 hours, 4.5 hours. I'm up at 5. I'm in the gym for 6. Steam room, sauna, swim, ice bath, work. Get to work, and I've done most of my day before the staff arrive.
What do you do to relax, James?
That. Work.
Yep.
That's like...
So no golf, no bike, no...
No.
Helicopters?
Music.
Didn't you drive
helicopters?
Yeah.
Still doing the helicopter?
Yeah, I mean, flying in a cloud, you've just got to concentrate on staying alive. So you can't think about work.
You still have the helicopter?
Oh yeah, it was a timeshare, so it's not really a helicopter.
I'd love you if this, it's kind of like Make-A-Wish Foundation. Please, would you take Amadeus in your helicopter? I've been trying to get him in a helicopter for 25 years.
Let me know when you want to do it, and we can. If there's something in Great Yarmouth, there's a we get a note from the CAA. We could fly you into that if you want.
This could be it, right?
Okay,
we could fly to Great Yarmouth because it's it's a bit of a drive, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can.
I'm up for that.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah,
we could do that.
I'd like that.
Big head.
Yeah. How many can you get in the helicopter?
Me plus 3.
Right. Okay.
No.
Yep.
No, I'm not doing helicopter.
What if when they used to drug Mr. T to get him on a plane? What if we dope you up?
No, I'd rather lose a limb.
But you've got more chance of dying on the road in a car.
Yeah, you have. That's fact as well.
That is a fact rather than a helicopter.
When the engine goes, it's never gone on me, and I've got hundreds of hours in a helicopter. If the engine fails, you basically glide.
How can you glide in a helicopter?
It's called auto-rotation. There's enough inertia in the blades to get you down to a safe landing pad. So I will always drive because I'm really safe. Like if I'm landing at Great Yarmouth, a few days before I'll drive there and look where I'm landing. I won't just go and fly and land. Make sure there's no power lines anywhere. All of the helicopters are A-checked by me and also Nottingham Heliport when we're ready to go. So it's ultra, ultra, ultra safe. And, if I take my daughter in it, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll just have 2 pints before we leave as well and not 4.
Good lad.
I'll think about it, James.
Yeah, I'm up for all that, Jimmy.
Yeah, we can definitely do that, mate. That's
so,
as long as it's not raining, because I never take risks. If it's sunny, we're out. If it's pissing it down, it's a no.
See, you could not have a safer pilot than James Dean.
All right.
So
I'll think about it. I said,
why don't we do this? Could be a nice, tidy sort of weekender bit of media. We could go to visit the site. We need to go back down with one of our DJs in the helicopter.
Yeah. I could do that. Yeah.
Yes.
Very doable.
Sam's in the other room listening to
I've got sweaty palms.
Imagine filming this.
No.
I think you'll cry and be sick.
I think I'll faint, Jimmy. I think I'll
I think
faint.
we should, because we could also talk about tidying events, and we could do some business while we're flying down to Great Yarmouth.
Well, it is great fun. I mean, it is great fun. When you first get in a helicopter, you think, fucking hell, is this it? But that's just how they design them. Robinson's, the R22, are the ones and the R44 that I fly, that have the highest safety record of any helicopter.
There you go. Let's do it.
Do they
That's
come with a
agreed.
parachute? You don't have a parachute.
No parachutes, mate. No parachutes and no water floats. You can have water skids if you're flying over the ocean, but...
I'll be skidding. My pants will be
A
skidding.
parachute.
Well, yeah. I'm just thinking, if you're up there, what height do they fly?
You got
Oh, that's my Siri saying don't go.
6,000 feet, but you won't go that high. You normally bumble around at 2,500.
Yeah. So, blade stops. Shit. Get. You got the parachute on. Surely it's obvious.
No, the thing is, the higher you fly, the more time if the engine goes you've got to land. And also, what I'll do is, even though it costs a ridiculous amount in fuel, let's say sort of this is a built-up area, Leicestershire, and these are the fields. I'll fly round purposely and to make sure there's nice fields all below me. So if we did have to get down, so it costs a lot more, but it's a lot more safe by just going the long green route. I did fly my sister, who lives in London, works in London, down to the Isle of Dogs, and then through all of the air gates, they call them, past Buckingham Palace, the House of Parliament. That was fucking stressful.
Yeah.
And I probably won't do that again, because that was another level of military clearance, so that you've got to fly and do the radio. Probably don't need to put myself under that much pressure. Bumbling around in the countryside to Great Yarmouth, 100%, that's an easy job.
I'll think about it, but I just hear a lot of football chairmen going down in car parks.
Honestly.
Right, that was a tail rotor failure from a manufacturing a warranty. So that was, you're talking about the Leicester City guy.
Yeah.
And, very sad, but 99% of helicopter accidents are mechanical. Human. There's only 1% of mechanical failure. And on that day, mechanical failure. And the way that people have accidents is either they've just passed, it's like a young driver, they've just passed the helicopter licence and they're too naive, or they've been flying 60 years and they're very complacent. Yeah. So I sit in the boundary of that. And then also, like, obviously you've got radar and you've also got air traffic control telling you if there's anything within like a 10-mile radius of you. And then just to be triple safe, when people normally fly at something comfortable like 2,500 feet, I'll always fly at an obscure number like 2,350 feet, because no fucker's at that level. It's just me.
There you go.
I think
it's sold.
Yeah.
I think it's sold. I might actually, as things progress, I might look at getting a helicopter license.
You'd love it.
Because
honestly,
I've got to go to Bournemouth this weekend.
Oh yeah. I've got to drive to Minehead on Saturday.
And I was like, could I fly to Southampton from Manchester? Oh, I could. Oh, via Dublin. What about the train? 6 hours. Car, 5 hours. Helicopter, probably an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, you probably get from sort of Derby to London in like 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah. We'll talk after the show, James.
Right, it's time for your big question now, Andy.
So, you've lived a life of music. You've been to many clubs. You've played many records. You said earlier that you got 15,000 records.
Well, I actually got more because I brought Andy Farley's record collection a couple of years ago as well.
So you've got...
There's loads.
I'm going to really test you now. So it's your final gig. It's kind of death row stuff, this. So it's your final gig. You can choose one club to do your final ever gig. You could have played at this club or you've never played at this club, okay? You're going to look at those 25,000 records. You can only pick 3. So you're in the club. You're going to drop that first track that kicks your set off. In the middle of the set, you're going to drop the bomb. So what's that middle set tune? And then your final record that says thank you, good night. 3 tunes. And give me the club first.
Oh, God, this is real difficult. Can I have 2? I mean, let me because of the politics now in my life with the Emporium. You know, if it was, because of my history there, probably the Emporium.
Yes, we'll take that.
But my Pikes a couple of weeks ago was so insane on an energy level. I can't wait to do that again. So I would say Pikes. Music, Jesus Christ. Like there's so many. I've got like so many records. I'd say the ones that are still timeless for me. Sound Design Happiness, it's just a all-rounder.
Would that be your opener?
I think so. And, you know, a lot of people in the office call me Piano Jim because I just tend to play warpy bass lines and pianos. So I guess I've got to say playing with knives because, you know, it's just always works. And, you know, a couple of people like Alex Laird from the Subway always used to call me gay because back in them days, it was like you all play the sort of handbaggy stuff and, you know, all that. And I'd say my final one...
one more tune. One more tune.
It's really difficult.
The lights have come on and then they're going to dim again. They're going to give one more. The confetti cannon is loaded.
See, there's a track by a new artist called Modea, who Brian Kearney's champion at the minute. He's made a track called A Little More that is incredible. But I'm going to have to go with a pumped up one, my own remix of Gala Free From Desire, my old house version, because it never fails.
Love it.
What tempo is that you've pumped it up to?
135.
Would you send it to a friend?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's warpy. Sam would love it.
Right.
If you like wobbly.
You love a wobbler, don't you?
Love wobblers. Like, this is what it is. It's the same that we're fucking playing. I'm having to rip vinyl now onto USB and playing it because that's what everyone else is playing.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant. So that's good. So we're at Pikes and we've just ended on a bootleg version, Jimmy's bootleg version of Free From Desire.
Look forward to hearing it.
I want to hear it, yeah. Well, thank you very much. I think, as I say to some guests, it's almost like we could have had a part 2. And maybe next year we will, because I think there's
more to come.
There's more to come. But thank you, James Dean, entrepreneur, DJ, glass collector, helicopter flyer.
All round good egg, I'd say.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this podcast. We've really enjoyed it. And hopefully we'll be back soon if we don't lose interest in doing these podcasts. Well done for turning up as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. We enjoyed that.
Cheers.
Thanks, James.
Cheers.
Oh, that was great, mate.
That was fun.
Yeah, that really was good, yeah.